Lviv now as we welcome Dan Perry in. Dan, the former Associated Press chief editor for Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Where's this all going, Dan?
It is a remarkable situation because even though much of the world dislikes the brutality of Israel's conduct in this war, I think there's pretty close to consensus supporting Israel's goals, which are not just the return of their hostages, but a removal of this terrorist group from the governance of Gaza and to force its disarming. So the plan proposed by Trump essentially aligns with Israel's goals. It gives it gives a few carrots to Hamas. I mean, they would get to, have won the release of some hundred prisoners, Israel called them terrorists, held by Israel. But basically, these are surrender terms for Hamas. The Palestinian population at large in Gaza, of course, wants this. I mean, and of course would very much welcome the removal of Hamas, which has basically taken the population hostage. But as for Hamas itself, it's impossible to predict. The indications from Izzadin al-Haddad, their leader on the ground in Gaza, are negative. But on the other hand, they're in inglorious isolation because not only the West and the U.S., but the entire Arab League supports the deal, including Qatar, which has been their erstwhile patron and funder. So we have here an absurd situation where Israel is being accused of genocide by various parties, certainly by the Palestinians, but the party that is supposedly suffering the genocide is taking its time in agreeing to whether the war should end.
It's as
tragic as it is. It's as tragic as it is absurd. I can't predict which way it's going to go, but it is relevant that on the same day that Qatar basically accepted Netanyahu's apology for the violation of their sovereignty some weeks back in the strike against Hamas leaders, and that they announced the plan, Qatar also was a beneficiary of an executive order essentially extending NATO-like levels of security guarantees by the U.S. Now, I have to think, and indeed I have to hope, that unprecedented generosity on the part of the U.S., almost mind-bendingly wonderful from the perspective of Qatar, comes with some strings whereby they will really have to use all the levers at their disposal, and these levers exist, to ensure that one way or another, after all the obfuscations and discussions and buying time, Hamas will in the end be compelled to surrender and receive agree to the deal. Yeah.
3 days. President said 3 or 4, so maybe tomorrow we'll see. Live from Tel Aviv, Dan Perry.